court for 2 hearings in Pennsylvania. One of those is focused on his possible extradition to New York City, where prosecutors yesterday charged him with 11 counts, including murder as an act of terrorism and first-degree murder. CNN's Danny Freeman is outside the court in Hollidaysburg, Pennsylvania, where Mangione will appear tomorrow. Danny, what can we expect tomorrow?
And Jake, tomorrow morning, this normally quiet courthouse in Hollidaysburg, the county seat of Blair County, is just going to be absolutely buzzing with local media, with national media, with local police, state police, likely the NYPD, and of course, Luigi Mangione will be showing up here himself. Like you said, he has those 2 hearings, the first one kicking off at 8:30. That's for those Pennsylvania state charges. A reminder for folks, 2 felonies, including a gun charge, and then 3 misdemeanors. And then immediately after, he's going to be having an extradition hearing, again, potentially weighing extradition to New York for those much serious murder charges. Now, the hearing is still on as of now, but Mangione's attorney indicated to CNN's Kara Scannell that he does not plan to fight extradition at this time, which means, frankly, Jake, he could be on his way back to New York by sometime tomorrow, perhaps as early as the afternoon. Meanwhile, Jake, we have updated information on some of the efforts the outside world has made to contact Mangione since he's been in prison here in Pennsylvania. Per a spokesperson for the Pennsylvania Department of Corrections, as of this afternoon, Mangione has received 158 deposits into his prison commissary account. Also, as of this afternoon, he's received 40 emails and 53 pieces of mail. That's notable because that's up considerably from the 6 pieces of mail that he had received as we reported yesterday. But still, the only visitors he's had to date has been from his attorneys. Jake, this area of Pennsylvania is going to be swamped and likely chaotic tomorrow, but this chapter of this part of the Mangione story in Pennsylvania likely to conclude tomorrow as well.
All right, Danny Freeman in Pennsylvania, thanks so much. The gun charge and a false ID charge in Pennsylvania are pretty minor compared to the 11 charges that Mangione faces in New York, including 1 count of first-degree murder and 2 counts of second-degree murder, one of which is charged as a killing in the act of terrorism. Here now, law professor Anna Kaminsky and CNN legal analyst Jennifer Rogers. Take a listen to Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg explaining his decision to charge Mangione with first-degree murder as an act of terrorism.
Think about the proof in the case, some of the writings. I'm not going to get into too much of that, but in the actual reaction, in the middle of Midtown, the beginning of a busy day, tourists, commuters, business people, the intent was to sow terror.
Anna, you've said that those charges are unusual because, quote, this isn't traditionally how we think of terrorism, unquote. Explain.
Yeah, so what's important here, Jake, is what we're trying to figure out is, was the intention here to kill, or was the intention here to kill an individual and to also cause fear in others? And so one of the things that we have to look at, one of the things that it's going to be considered by the jury is, were these intended consequences or unintended consequences? And that's really yet to be seen.
And Jen, you worked with Alvin Bragg in the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Southern District of New York. Do you think the evidence so far supports Bragg's current charges against him? And what does this tell you about how Alvin Bragg is approaching this case?
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, it's obviously an aggressive charge. It's the top charge that he could possibly bring. So it shows me that they're really going after this full throttle. Listen, Alvin's terrific. He's got a great group of people. They clearly know their legal theory. To Anna's point, they know the argument that they're going to make to the jury. It's just not so obvious to me how they're going to prove that intent to intimidate or coerce a civilian population. So we'll have to see how that plays out.
Rebecca Weiner, who's the deputy commissioner of the NYPD's Intelligence and Counterterrorism Unit, said that the terrorism statute was, quote, borne out in threats against other CEOs. Take a listen.
The intent to intimidate or coerce a civilian population, which is, of course, at the root of our state terrorism statute, is very much borne out in this reaction. And for good reason. We've had a torrent of online threats. We've had real world activity that the police commissioner flagged, which is abhorrent, and it causes concern.
Anna, do you think it's going to be difficult for prosecutors to prove that those were the intended consequences of Thompson's murder?
So based on what we know now, I think they do have an uphill battle. We're not privy yet to some of the writings that they've referred to. We're certainly not privy to any information that they may have received from the accused at this point, or anything that they've received from others about his alleged intent. But this is difficult to prove both the intent to kill and also this intent to cause terror, not just what may have occurred after, but actually an intent that occur.
Jennifer, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree. And it's also an interesting question. I mean, some of what this reaction raised is this notion of jury nullification. What will the jury do in the box with this and turned into a hero because of what he did? So it kind of flips it on its head a little bit. Terrorism is about making everyone fearful of you and your actions, when the public reaction really seems to be the opposite of that. They're kind of cheering him on, which is both bizarre and kind of leads you to believe, if you're the prosecutor, I might have a problem with one or more jurors in this case, particularly pushing a really, really aggressive charge like the first-degree murder charge.
All right.